So, I'm back now. The ink has definitely dried by now because in the meantime, since I was last recording, it has become tomorrow. Last night I got kind of distracted by TV shows and stuff like that. But I did get a good 4 hours worth of painting in. So today I will continue. I want to make the armor pads look really cool. I did have a really unfortunate experience last night. I had a quick looking through the index Xenos 2, and what do I see? I see some Genestealer Cultists painted in what is very close to the color scheme I was thinking of. I wonder where I got the idea then. Hate that. It's so hard to be original in this world. It's like every idea you have, somebody else had it before you. But who cares? We'll soldier on. Just not be as original as we first thought. But yeah, we got some really dirty looking now gray areas. I'm gonna dry brush that back up with the gray and see if I can get that nice and smooth looking. And then hopefully I'll have the armor, except for all the details of course, but have the armor looking fairly well, and then get the skin tone just right. And that means, because once I have the big armor areas, I have the clothing done and the skin, all I'm actually lacking are details and the base. So once I get the armor done and going over on the skin, I will probably start doing the base, because once I have all the major areas painted and the base is looking at least fairly good, I have something that resembles a finished model, and then the details can kind of be add-ons that all improve the end result, but are not strictly necessary for it to be ready for a tabletop. Although I do prefer to get the models completely finished, so I can varnish them, protect my precious paint job. But more often than not, I'll miss my final deadline and start playing with the models before I actually finished up all the details. But that's okay. Usually I do eventually get around to finishing them if it's something I keep playing with. Now for me, the two parts of painting minis that I actually really hate are the very first stage of assembly. Unless I'm converting a lot, I just hate assembling models, removing mold lines, stuff like that. So sometimes I do tend to get a bit sloppy in that process and then hate myself for it later when I'm painting. The other part that I actually also really hate is the finishing touches, the final details, because that means I have to make the very hard decision that this is as good as this model is going to get by my hand. I hate making that decision, to actually look at a model and say this is actually the best I can do, because the best I can do is never ever as good as I want it to be. But that's okay. We improve through practice and through trying out new methods. So that feeling of disappointment that my paint job just isn't good enough only lasts until the next project, where I start out, and when I'm like halfway through painting the model, I'm like, hey, this is looking good. And then I do details, finishing touches, mess up, and we're back to square one. But hopefully we're back to square one with a slightly better result. That's usually how it goes. And sometimes you just mess up completely and things look horrible and you have to strip the paint and start over. Which is okay as well. At least you tried out something that definitely didn't work, and then you have that experience for later. It just sucks if you're trying to get an army ready. Also, yesterday, since that was my first time trying to film myself painting, I did make a rather big mistake. Most of the time I was painting out of frame. So today I'm gonna really try to paint within the frame of the camera and what it's recording, which is really hard because my normal posture while painting would mean that what I would be filming would mostly be my crotch, and I have a feeling that's not what you all came here to see. Me filming my crotch with a mini in the way. So I'm going to really try and paint out here over the table. Of course I might be wrong. You might all actually have come here just to see Lasfar's crotch. If that is the case, please go to our Patreon account. Patreon members can do request videos, and if enough people request it, we do have a ton of footage of my crotch lying around, but you will have to pay for that privilege. So, since I'm right now just doing dry brushing of the gray areas, first back to the original gray color, then afterwards I'll do a lighter shade and a lighter dry brush. I'm just going to turn off the camera and return back to you once I have some results. So, I kind of got the armor up to being close to how I want it. I don't know if you can see it really, but it has had a few dry brushings of different gray shades. And now I want the skin. I want to start working on the skin, which I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna try and get it a bit more. Right now it's just purple wash over a light gray. So I'm going to try and dry brush that into a bit more natural skin color that still has retains the purple hue, and I have no idea how I'm actually going to do that. So poor Muddy here, who already has had a few mess ups happen to him, is going to be the subject that's going to try out all the stuff. And first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try for a really easy solution. I found some pale flesh here from Fantasy Pro, figuring a grayish skin color that still retains the purple hue. So I'm going to try and dry brush this on top of the purple, see how that looks, and if I'm really lucky, it looks really good. If I'm not so lucky, I'll have to try something else. So, that is very, very gray. have to do this in stages. Let's see, get that rich on his forehead. It's kind of a Genestealer tell sign. So dry brush that on. That did not give any skin-like appearance whatsoever. Instead it was just gray. Going back to the gray. That's not exactly the look we're going for. So I think we're gonna need something a bit more fleshy. So let me just poke around, see what I can find. Just a sec. So went back over it here after I added a bit of dark sand color to the pale flesh mix, and well, somewhat better result. Only problem is it goes really poorly with the gray armor. So I'm going to have to rethink my skin look somewhat. So I'll probably have to go over all of them, and what I'm going to do instead is start off with an actual skin color, maybe even a kind of darkish skin color to make it stand out from the light gray, then give it a purple wash, and then dry brush it with the lighter skin color, because they do need to be more fleshy to stand out from the gray armor. So I'll just give him a quick paint job on all the heads. At least that's really quick, and then I'll be right back. So now I've given them a kind of skin color. This one on the heads. It's not quite dry yet, but just going to tell you what I used this European skin from Colors of War, which is I think a really good color. It has like the exact color of anybody who was born of 2 Caucasian parents and has never seen the sun. Like real pale skin color. This particular paint is how do you say it, very dense in the color, which means it covers really well. Unfortunately, when it comes out of the bottle, it has the consistency of mayonnaise, so you need to water it down a lot, like really a lot. And once you water it down that far, it doesn't cover as well. So actually I don't have much good to say about the quality of this paint. It's really bad, but I really like the color, and for this base layer, because you need to water it down as much as you do and it doesn't quite become a wash, it gets kind of it leaves the paint in like globs and nodules and doesn't give a smooth coat at all, which is okay for the bottom layer, because once these are dry, I'm gonna ink wash them again with purple, and then after that I want to have something smooth on top of that. So these colors definitely go out the window for that. But it was the color that I could find right now that had the skin tone that I was looking for, which is really pale. But yeah, so I'll just leave these to dry for a bit, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have a bit of a dry time, and we have a kind of, I don't know if I can zoom in so you can see this kind of splotchy coat of paint here, which will hopefully be okay, since it's only the very bottom layer. Now we're going back to where we started, the purple ink. This is a tutorial about purple ink. So zoom back out, and I still have 2 globs of purple ink lying here in my wet palette, and big old brush. Make sure it's fairly clean. Yeah, and let's begin. Okay, this purple ink is not as good as I hoped it would be. I'll just get some new. Looking at the first one right now that's drying up, it keeps looking really good. Might actually not have to do much more about it to it after this, which would be nice. I hate painting skin. I can never get the finish on skin that I really want. But this actually turns out, seems like it's turning out quite nicely. So, the ink has dried just a little bit, not completely dry yet. So next up I'm going to get a start on the base, because once the base gets a bit of color, then everything starts looking much better. Now, for this these bases, what I've done is I've glued some baking soda on them, a few pebbles from the Kittle litter, and then some bended metal from these foil trays, like these, cut out small pieces of that, bended it a bit and glued it on. I also left part of each base without without anything on it, to make a little pool there of some kind of toxic waste. I'm going to paint those later on. First of all, I want the ground area painted, and for that I'm going to start with what do we call it? Not that one. Where did it go? I had it in my hand just a second ago. Heavy brown. Here it is. There it is. Heavy brown from Game Color. Now, when I'm painting the bases, especially when I make them from baking soda, I am not afraid to just use big fat layers of the paint, because the base itself sucks it up a bit, and it gives it, when it gets too heavily colored, it actually just starts looking a bit muddy. And that's kind of the look I'm going for, so that's good. Okay, so I decided on a brush. That's always the trick when using somebody else's workspace. I'm using this one. That you don't exactly know where everything is and what quality stuff is in, and what's good and what's less good. Said the beautiful part of painting the base is it really makes it look like you've done a lot to the mini. Just getting a few colors down on the base, make sure that your mini looks so much closer to tabletop worthy instantly, and that's very good for keeping your what do you call it, your morale high while painting, because sometimes you feel like you're working on your minis and you're actually getting nowhere and that is disheartening. At least to me, that is. So. You can see it, but the mini already now looks way more finished than just about 30 seconds ago. So I'll just get some more bases done and paint up, and then the ink should have dried in the meantime. I'll be right back. So let me just get a mini out here. This is like that. There you go. This is muddy. As far as he is in the process right now, the ink has dried on his head. Looks pretty okay. Let me see if I can tilt him so you can see the face as well, like that. Later on in the process, when I towards the end, I might I will paint his eyes and his tongue. But right now, I actually think the skin looks pretty good. So for now, I'll leave it at that. I might go back later on just to make a final highlight on the very, very raised parts of the face. But I actually like that. Also, he's gotten a color onto his base, just the one color, which means the base is by no means done, but it does already now make it look like the miniature is getting really close to tabletop ready, even though the only thing I've actually painted are the pants, the armor, the skin, the head, and a single color on the mud on the base, and we are beginning to look close to tabletop worthy. This is all in about 6 hours painting for me. That's of course 10 models, which is really not very fast at all, but for me that's pretty good, since I am a notoriously slow painter. So I'll just probably give the bases a bit more, but I think we're getting towards the end of this episode. But I'll see. I don't have that much more time left, but I'll see how far I can get. Make sure to keep recording, and see how far I get during this part. Then probably I'll finish these up next weekend or something like that. So seems like from gray miniature to a finished paint job, I might be able to do that for 10 minis without their arms and weapons. Might be all in all 10 hours of painting, 10-12 hours, then the arms another maybe 5 or 6 hours. So all in all 20 hours to get a unit done of concentrate painting. That's not boding well for me wanting to paint an entire army at some point, but I might be able to speed up the process once I get the hang of the color scheme and how to do things. I mean, I did do the heads twice before finding something that looked fairly decent, so with a bit of luck I might be able to shave at least 5 hours off the process. That would bring it down to about 15 hours. Of course, these are magnetized, so I have to do the arms separately. That does add time as well. If I'm painting up an entire army and not just this one kill team, I could probably only only have to magnetize the specialist weapons and heavy weapons, and the rest could just be glued on to speed things along a bit. So yeah, I'll just pause the camera and do a bit more work and show you what's what in a bit. So another update on how far I've gone. I've now caught up all the minis to this incredible standard. So armor has had 2 dry brushings of grey and lighter grey, and the clothes are pretty much up to spec. Everyone's gotten the first color on the base. I am going to apply now an extra layer of a lighter, more goldish, gold brown, let me see, there, paint on the base, not covering all of the already brown thing, just to get a bit more color going on that. Also, it's something that I can fairly easily do without too much thought put into it. This one does need a lot of shaking because it tends to divide into yellow and green, which is kind of weird for a brown color to do, but that's what it does. Also, I'm running out of space in the palette here, but being the lazy kind of guy that I am, I'm just gonna find a bit of a spot there. Border it down a bit. Again, not too worried about the consistency of the paint for the bases, because everything is going to wind up being kind of muddy, and also, even though it's already had a couple of coats of paint and primer, the whole baking soda thing does tend to suck up the paint a lot. So I'm just gonna add some splotches of this color around the place, just a few areas, some areas, so that we get different brown colors towards the end. This is going to look not very good at all until we wash it down afterwards, just to but I am going to give it a wash of Dublin mud afterwards. That should make everything tight better, and I am giving most of the areas this color as well, because I am also, before the wash, I am going to give it some dry sand color as well, which is very yellow, a very yellow brown, but towards the end it does produce a very good result. So most of what I already painted brown is getting this more golden brown color, but without being too careful or really attempting to cover everything. So, back again, still on the base here, doing just some small splotches of dark sand. I've thinned this down quite a lot so that it leaks out onto the rest of the area wherever I put it. Kind of enjoy it when the paint actually does most of the work, just goes wherever it wants to go, and I don't have to worry about it. Just put it on somewhere and it spreads out by itself. And again, I'm just doing a few areas to get some difference in color. Right now it does look a bit horrible because it's some very huge coloration differences, but that's okay. The ink will unify that and keep it tied a bit more together. Gotta be careful. Keep the mini where the camera actually picks it up. I don't want any more of those shenanigans where I videotape the table while I was painting the mini besides the table. Unfortunately getting some paint on the feet of the model. It's okay, I'll fix that up later. It's okay, I haven't really painted the boots yet, so the toes and heels of the boots are going to get painted different color than the gray they are now. Haven't quite decided on which color, but since we are in a sci-fi setting, I might figure out something that's not a leathery color. Leather is kind of a go-to for footwear for me, but be nice to try something different. Just don't right now have any idea what that should be. I don't want too many different colors on the model in itself, so as you can see, this is back to good old Muddy, the guy with all the errors, I think. Yeah. No, wait a minute. That's not Muddy. This is Muddy. Muddy. I don't know how well you can see it, but right now the base is very splotchy. The last color is not completely dry yet, but I don't care. I'm going to ink it up as soon as I get the right ink. Just a second. And here we go. Ready with the right ink. Got some Dipper Mud. Really good for the muddy look. It's kind of in the name. It does live up to its name, this one. So, fairly big brush. Big soft brush is like this. Is good for what do you call it? Just inking away. I've been too good at washing that one. Need to clean up, soften it up a bit. Yeah. There you go. And I'm just gonna give this a really, really heavy coat of ink. Or wash. Dip and mud. It's not really an ink wash, but yeah. And I might actually give it 2 coats of this, because we want that muddy texture going on. Another thing with these washes is it makes everything a little bit shiny, a little bit slimy, makes it, especially when you apply a really thick coat, it does give it like a humid look. So once this is completely dry, I'll give it a second layer of the ink to tie all that together, and that will probably be it for today. So now the ink has dried. I'm ready to give it another layer of the Devil and Mud, this time on top of dry layer, just to even out all the splotches of paint I put on there a bit more. And normally I wouldn't wait around just for it to dry, but this time around I had a cup of coffee and a quick fencing match with Errant's 3-year-old offspring, Vida, and now I'm ready to give him the final wash, and that'll be it for this painting session. So all in all, I've spent about 10 hours painting in this go. That's as far as I got in 10 hours. That's probably about another 10 hours in them, so that's, since this is 10 minis, that will be about 2 hours per mini. That's alright, I guess. So, kind of looking forward to seeing the results after the editing and learning from my mistakes. I'll probably be a whole lot better at recording next time around. And I can tell the viewers that at the time of recording this, Errant is back from the hospital, has been for a couple of days, but he is still heavily medicated. So we'll try to, the rest of us will try to produce some content. Hopefully some of this will be useful. Unlike Errant, we haven't really done this before, so learning as we go along. So that's final one for now, and that's as far as I get with the paint job in this go. What I have done here is I've finished, see, all the muddy parts of the base. It's still wet on here, but I finished the pants, I've finished the armor, except for some cleanups, at least the main colors of it. There's a lot of detail work to be done, which can be a bit disheartening. So what I've done is, for next time I'm painting, I've left out the rest of the bases so I still have something that's, for me, very much fun to do and also makes a huge difference. Quite looking forward to painting the toxic pools, also the old pieces of metal that are on every single base. some bent out of shape sheet metal lying around, and also there's some rocks. They're very easy to paint, and so that means I still have some of the more easy, accessible, enjoyable parts left that I can do while I'm being frustrated with small details that I kind of just imagine painting the tongue sticking out, might get some red paint on the face, need to fix that back up and stuff like that, which can be quite frustrating. And it's nice to have something easy where you can get some cheap success, so you don't get too disheartened. So yeah, but that'll be for the next big painting session. So see you next time, and bye bye.